Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this webinar. This is the third and final instalment in our mini-series of webinars designed to share with you some hints and tips to help you get through the tax season. My name is Lee Bennett. I am the Head of Pre-Sales at Wolters Kluwer Tax and Accounting in the UK, and it's my pleasure to be taking you through today's webinar. So to recap on the previous webinars, the first webinar concentrated on data entry hints and tips, making the most out of the integration with other third-party data, as well as data held elsewhere within the CCH suite. Webinar 2 was about reviewing the tax return and getting client approval before sending it to your clients using the tax return bundle and CCH OneClick. So in this session, I'll be looking at some of the functionality you get as part of CCH Personal Tax above and beyond just the ability to prepare a tax return. So today I'll be looking at things like task management, the use of extra fields, reporting and data mining, and mail merging. So I'm just going to share my screen. And you should be looking at CCH Central, which all of you should be fairly familiar with. Obviously, the content of what you're seeing at the moment, my homepage, will probably look different to your homepage. But that's obviously one of the ideas of CCH Central, to bring a personalised experience to each and every user. The first area I'm going to just quickly mention is around task management. Now, task management is the ability to use a to-do system almost. You can set up and store any items that you want to be reminded of or remind other people about. And you'll be alerted to those via a homepage control. You can see mine on the left-hand side of my screen, tasks and appointments. All of the tasks have been assigned to me. You can see there the client name that they refer to, a subject and a due date. Now you'll see the majority of the tasks, in my case, have been assigned to me by virtue of workflow. But workflow isn't the only way that you can have tasks assigned to you. So just to show you, I'm going to go and search for a client. You don't need to go into the client record necessarily, although if you're already there, obviously you can. I'm just going to go and find a client, my client here, Mr. Jack Smith, that I'm going to use today. And you'll see upon my ribbon bar, I've got a to-do item and I've got a tasks drop-down pick list. Now, these are my selection of tasks that I've got set up within CCH Central. Some of them will be there by default, so you'll probably have the same as me. Other items I've created myself, so things like in this list, inbound telephone call and outbound telephone call are ones that I've created under the maintenance menu within CCH Central. And that just allows you to set up predefined text for whatever the to-do item happens to be. In this case, I'm just going to go down to the to-do item and you'll see a nice straightforward screen will appear asking you for the subject, the date, start time, end time, if those are applicable. You've got status. Obviously, it's been assigned to contacts and Mr. Jack Smith. And there's also a notes area within here as well. You'll also notice on the right-hand side, you can actually make the task into a recurring task. So if it's something that obviously needs to happen frequently, maybe you have something to do every Monday morning for a particular client, you can assign it from within here as well. So I'm just going to put a little reminder in for myself. Please call Jack about his tax return. Doesn't really form part of workflow. It's not the process that as a practice I need to be able to capture for every single one of my clients and their tax returns, but I want to be able to remind it to myself. And I'm going to give myself a week or so to complete that. Now you'll see it has been assigned to myself. It will be assigned to whoever the user is that's created the task. You can simply reassign it if need be, literally to anyone else within the practice, assuming that they are a user of CCH Central as well. You can change the priority, high priority or low priority, importance of the task. You can obviously mark it as being completed, or we can just save it. Now that will put the task within the client record itself. So you will find within your client record, you do have a to-do tab, which will store all of the tasks, whether or not they are these kind of ad hoc type tasks or whether they are related to workflow. And you'll also find it back on your main dashboard as well within here. So there we have, please call Jack about his tax return, not due until the 13th. When it is completed, there's a couple of ways that you can complete it. Either open up the subject itself, obviously, and then tick the mark as completed from within here, or you can just use the items, the buttons down at the bottom of the screen, which is really useful. if you need to complete more than one task at the same time. They will obviously remove themselves from your to-do list and then be captured again under the to-do tab within your main client record. So that's task management. Next item on my agenda is around extra fields. Now, you will have in your version of CCH Central a tab called Extras or Extra. On mine, I've actually renamed it. It's called Profile because it means more to me calling it Profile than just extra fields. It's where you profile your clients, and you'll see some of the examples that I've got in here. The extra fields are for you as a practice to decide what you want to use them for. So some of the examples I've got within here, you probably won't have. And if you already use extra fields, you'll probably have some that I've not thought of as well. A couple of different things in here just to mention. Pretty much you can capture any type of information, whether it's drop-down pick lists, whether it's free format text, whether it's dates, whether it's tick boxes. You'll see those in the value on the right-hand side. You can make the extra fields mandatory when you're creating a client record. Those will be marked in red. So on this particular screen, you'll see the marketing consent is in red. And that just means that that record, that field has to be filled in when I'm creating a brand new client within CCH Central. You'll also notice that the majority of my fields are part of a group, whether it's a permanent group, I've got a workflow group, I've got an MTD group and another group somewhere up here as well, marketing, which allows me to not only visually group them together on this particular screen, but it also allows me to assign security rights to the items within that group. So for example, I probably won't want everybody within my practice, my version of Central, to be able to update all of the fields that are in the permanent group. I just want to make those available to certain users, the super users or the administrators of Central. Now, the two items that I'm just going to probably highlight here more than any others is around MTD. Hopefully you're starting this process already, even though it's been postponed, shall we say, for another 12 months, all around the MTD for ITSA. You'll see I've already got one there for VAT as well, to allow you to, as I said, profile your clients, to record what solution that they're currently using or proposing to using for everything around MTD. In my case, it is just drop-down pick lists. I've listed out there some of the more common cloud bookkeeping systems, and I've also got spreadsheets, but obviously that drop-down pick list is defined by you, so you can use it for whatever reason you want it to do. And that can be used as part of data mining. So again, if I just go back to my Find Client screen, the first part of data mining we can actually do from your searching facility that we have within CCH Central. Now, when I first went into here, I knew exactly which client I wanted to look for. I searched for the client code or the client name, and it brought me a result back of just the 4. But if I want to do a data mine or an advanced search on any of the kind of static information that we're holding around our clients, we can do that nice and easily from this particular screen as well. So you'll see in my drop-down pick list that I've got in front of us at the moment, as I said, most of the common fields that you want to be able to search for clients by are in here, as well as some extra fields. So if I just did, as my little example, any clients where MTD for income tax self-assessment is equal to, or I guess not equal to, but equal to, let's choose 0, click apply. And out of my database, the system will then go and find 6. Now you can refine that. You can add different layers to your advanced search, almost as many layers as you require to get the information back out again. So it could be where they're using 0 and they belong to a particular partner or a different manager, because they want their own individual list. I have seen some practices that will also profile their clients into bands for MTD purposes. So not just what solution they're using, but almost what type of message do they need to know about. And that could be based just on your knowledge of the client. It could be based on something around their actual tax return data, which we'll come to look at in a moment or two. We will actually come back to this, because once you've made your list, obviously you then need to do something with it rather than just have a nice little list that you can look at. The other thing actually I'll mention just within here is the number of columns, the number of fields that are available within your Find Client screen. Again, yours will probably look maybe even totally different to mine. I'm showing some common fields, obviously things like the client code, the name, the partner, the manager, the UTR if they have one, if you've stored that within Central, which you should do. Telephone, mobile, email, but But again, on the right-hand side, you will notice that I've got the values being displayed from some of my extra fields that I've just shown you. What MTD for VAT and ITSA solution they're currently using, whether or not we've completed the AML checks, and the date that we last completed the AML checks within here as well. Now, to do that, and this is for each individual user, you can right-click and there is a field chooser. And this will appear for most of the grid type screens that you'll see within Central / Personal Tax. So we can go to the field chooser, and this will show me all of the available fields that you can literally just drag and drop onto this particular screen. So it really does depend on, I guess, what role you have within the practice or what level of personal tax user maybe you are as to what information you need to know. But as I said, you can, not a great one, there's no values there. You can simply drag and drop the information directly onto the screen, because that enables you to see relevant information around your client without having to go too deep into the system itself. Obviously, you don't need to go into the client record and then go and have a look at the extras tab. Down at the bottom of the screen, you'll see that I'm also showing a preview panel, which allows me to see, again, some relevant information around my client record, again, without having to necessarily go into the client record itself. And if you don't already have that, if you right click, you will have either show or, in my case, hide the preview panel. It's that option that you want to go for. As I said, we'll come back to this in a moment or two to do something with this particular list. The next area I'm just going to, again, touch on within a client record. We've probably shown you this in a previous webinar, but as I said at the beginning, part of the idea of CCH Central is to allow you as an individual user to build your own personalized environment. These are the tabs within a client record that I've chosen that I want to see for myself when I log into the system. So I start off with main, addresses, profile, associated, etc. If you right click on any of the tabs that you see, you'll find a field tab chooser, and that tab chooser allows you to do exactly that. It allows you to add in or take away extra tabs worth of information that as a user you probably don't need to see or don't want to see. And even you can change the position of the tabs as they appear on the screen. So for example, if you are primarily a tax user, which hopefully you are as you're on this particular webinar, you could change the position of the tax returns tab to be the one that appears right at the very top, because when you first open up a client record, that's going to be the first tab that you'll go and see. Now, as mine is, you'll see jumping around a little bit while it's just moving, but there we go, it's at the top of my list. It's now the very first tab that the system will open when I open up a client record. So it maybe just take a couple of clicks out of your way when you're opening up a client record and before you go into the tax return, but it should save you a little bit of time. And it just gives you the information that you need a little bit more front and center. Okay, I'm going to move on to reporting now. I've already opened up the reporting tab, but that's available from the reporting item on your menu bar, as you can see at the top of the screen on my toolbar. Again, actually, you could have a toolbar chooser, so you can take out other buttons. And again, you can move these around if you prefer to have them in a different order to the default, so there's no problem in you doing that as well. The idea of reporting is that it allows you to build your own reports and your own data mining queries based on the actual transactional data that we store within CCH Central. Now, for you guys, it's going to be the entries and the fields that are available within personal tax, as well as CCH Central. But technically, one of the reasons, and probably the main reason why we developed reporting itself, is to allow you to combine the fields from different modules that are within Central. So if as a practice, you also take our accounts production, you can start to combine fields from accounts production, maybe turnover values, with values taken from personal tax, or even practice management. What's the level of work in progress, for example, along with total tax due. Now you'll see on the left-hand side, when we first go into reporting, the system will give you a list of all of the reporting categories or all of the folders where reports can be saved. And the little number by the side of each of those folders will tell you how many reports are within that particular area. And you'll see, obviously, I've got quite a few within my system. And when you go to reporting, you'll probably have quite a few as well. because we also combine this area with any smart reports, any default reports that we have within the system. There's a couple of different reports I'm going to create quite quickly within this area. Obviously, this is being recorded, so you can stop and pause at any point in time. And when you're playing it back, if you want further information. I'm going to start off with a very simple report. I'm going to create a grid, so a very simple data mining report. You'll see when we have a new report, we're able to choose from the different products, the different modules that you're licensed for. And from within each of these modules, each of these products, there are a number of available fields. You can actually perform a search. If you know what the field name is, it takes you straight to that particular place. In my case, let's just make it simple. I want the name of my client. I want the partner that looks after them. I'm going to go into the client record because I'm also going to pick out some of those extra fields that I've mentioned as well. So I want to know what their current MTD solution is, both for ITSA and for VAT. And you'll see as I'm ticking the boxes on the right-hand side, the system will then start building the report in real time. And it tells me at the moment it's found 311 records that match my criteria. My criteria has been very simple so far. Just give me a list. I'm also then going to go into personal tax. So I'm going to take maybe the tax year, and I want the status of the tax return. And then I am going to combine it with some actual data from my client's tax returns. I'm going to use tax computations in this area. You'll see, obviously, we have a large number of sources that you can choose from. If you wanted to go down to the individual record, you could. But I'm going to use tax computations, and I'm going to scroll down to, I'll just use total gross income as my example. Now, as soon as I start to add in specific tax related data, it will default to be the tax year that I'm in, so 2021, which is why I've only got 3 records being displayed. But you can change the filtering at the top of the screen. You'll see here, this is where it's taking it from 2021 to 2021. Just so that I can show you a little bit more data, let's take that back, 2015, and click on Run. And you'll then see I've got 36 records matching my criteria. But as I said, it does more than just give you a list. You can do proper data mining from within here. So any of the fields that are available or that you've added into your report, you can also then filter. So kind of like the advanced search that I showed you a moment or so ago, you can build up your filtering to have many different layers. So in this case, I'm just going to make it, again, quite simple. I'm going to have total gross income, and I want to just bring out the ones that are greater than £5,000 and click apply. So out of my original 311 records, it's then gone through and identified only 31 clients' tax returns. Obviously, is now doing over multiple tax years, 31 tax returns that match my criteria. Any of the reports that you create can be saved. So I'm going to call this leave me tax report, put it into a report category or report folder. I'm going to put this into personal tax. And it is possible to assign a security group. You may not want everybody within the practice to be able to run, view, or edit this report. In my case, I'm just going to leave it like that and then click OK. So that's a very simple report. I'll just close out of that report. So I'm going to show you one of the ones that we have there already. So under digital tax, we've already started to give out some MTD related reports. So I'm just going to pick the top one just to show you how this has been put together. Now, we did this a number of years ago. So when I first click on edit, it will default to be the 2016 tax return. So that's probably tax year. So that's probably one of the first things that will need to be updated to show you get more relevant information. Click on run. I'll probably get a few more, 3 in my case. But what the system is doing here, it's not just bringing out the fields from the left-hand side, although on the face of it, it is. These are all standard fields up to here, really. So we've got the turnover, we've got gross rent, we've got that'll be rent from overseas properties, then we've got the share of partnership income, but then we've got this total income, because obviously from an MTD perspective, it's the total income based on those sources that determine whether or not your clients fall into the MTD regime. So for this one, we use the expression editor to basically add up the other columns worth of data. Not only that, but it's also then that value that we use to filter. So if I just choose the filter editor, you'll see in this case, obviously the report, the query that we're running is where they have total income greater than £10,000, but is less than £85,000. Obviously, you are free to make any amendments to this. You might want to add in the field or the query, the filter that allows you then to show what solution they're using for MTD at the moment, Xero or QuickBooks or Twinfield or Sage or whatever it happens to be, for the purposes of identifying your clients that you may want to give a different message to. Now that message, I'm going to go back to my Find Client screen, can be done from here. So again, when we're searching for a client, we're not searching for a client that we necessarily know all of the details around, like I did first of all, and it's not just an advanced search because it's not a static field. But if we want to produce a query or a list of clients based on the transactional data, that's where the reports option comes into play. So all the reports that we have, whether they are using the traditional smart reports option or the new reporting option that I've just used, we'll use one of these. You'll see all the reports are here. I've just obviously done search for my name. It's going to search for the report, and we can just click OK. That will allow me to amend the report parameters, the options that I chose, the filtering options. I'm happy with that. And it gives me 17 clients, which is less than the one that we saw actually in the report, because remember, some of my clients would have had multiple tax returns. Now, just for today's purposes, more for speed than anything else, I'm not going to create 17 individual letters, is the whole point of this particular bit, but rather I'll just do a handful, really. Let's just take the first few that we've got on my screen, down to Jack. Now, because it's in this particular layout, because it's under the Find Clients area, it means that I can perform a bulk action for those clients, or just a selection of my clients, as you can see. And that could be to bulk update one of the fields that we can see on the screen. So maybe you want to reallocate the clients to a different partner or a different manager, or you want to update one of the extra fields. And there's quite a few different options actually within bulk updates that you can use. The option that I want to go for is the mail merge option, because we need to get the message out about what MTD is all about. The options that I have: letters, labels, you can send them via email. You can also send them a CCH one-click message and document if you subscribe to CCH one-click. I'll use letters today. Pretty much the same process would be for any of those options. We need to pick up the template name. You'll see these are all standard Microsoft Word templates. These would be either created by you or take one that we've got in there and edit it. For those of you that perform the old style a memoir, or as we call it now, the CCH information request letter, you'll probably be familiar with this particular process anyway. Now, I've got a template in here. I've called it MTD for itza.doc. And this is the letter that I want to send out to all of my clients that I found, that I've selected within here. I'm going to send it to the main address. It's going to appear to come from the tax senior. However, if there isn't a tax senior within the responsibilities tab within Central, then I still want someone's name to be in there. So I'm going to choose the current client partner. So it uses whatever's at the top first, if there is one. If not, the current client partner in my case. Hopefully, there's always a client partner record. We go to next. Who you're actually going to address it to. Probably for personal tax purposes, you're going to send it to the main contact. So we can just click next. Confirm who you're writing to. You can obviously deselect some of these and you can perform additional queries. Perhaps I only want to send it to my particular clients within here. That is possible. And then tell the system, how do you want the letters to be generated? Do you want one single document, which has X number of pages for each of the letters that you're generating? Or do you want to actually create a number of Microsoft Word documents? The advantage of this, and if you have CCH document management, is the fact that the system can automatically store the documents within your client's record within CCH Central. So I'm just going to tick the box. I'm going to give it a description. I'm going to put it into correspondence to my clients file, click finish, and the system will then go through and churn out the letters. And we can see there Microsoft Word starts to wake up. And you probably can't see that very clearly at your end, but it's going through all of the documents, closing each one, generating each one. And if I just go into one of my particular client records, again, I use Jack as I just happen to be highlighted on him, go to the document center in my case, and there is the MTD document along with the preview. Now that could obviously be sent again via email as an email attachment. You could send it electronically using CCH one-click. Obviously, you can just print it out and put it in your post. So those were just the items that I wanted to show today. So we've gone through task management, the use of extra fields, reporting, stroke data mining, kind of one and the same thing there, and mail merging. Hopefully you found that of interest. So just to wrap up, obviously the short demo that I've gone through today just goes hand in hand with all of the other information that is available to you as a customer of ours. We do have an online customer community. We obviously have a professional services team allowing you to have live in-person and online training. The product information that's available again online as part of the customer community in user docs will have various getting started and user guides. We do, if you are interested in CCH one-click in particular, we do have activation on onboarding help for that as well. It just leaves me to say thank you very much for joining me.